So I saw this daunting stairway up a mountain the other day on the tram out here in Shuai Kaiwan, and I figured I'll give it a go. So here we go. All right, I had to change my shirt halfway up because it's pretty damp and there's a lot of foliage, and only got that one flannel shirt and a couple other shirts to wear here. It cost me 70 Hong Kong dollars already to get my laundry done. So, and that was just washed, so I'm gonna try to get some more life out of that cleaning than I would if I kept it on. So I just got my sweat jacket on here. I can afford getting sweaty and damp. Here's where I am so far, though. This trail here, it's pretty rough, man, and it could use some maintenance there along the stone path part of it. There's just trees and rubbish all over the place, and then it kind of leads up into this this raised steel walkway, and I don't know if it's government property or what, if I'm supposed to be on it or not right now, because the path just kind of leads up to it and you basically got to crawl under it to get on it. And but I'm following it. Let's see how it goes. I'll let you know when I get to the top. All right, so I think I'm on the trail again here. It kind of follows this sort of a water duct that runs down to the city. There's a city over there. And I'm just thinking, man, there's probably some really interesting bones or fascinating stories in these hills right now. If you did a little digging, I'm sure you'd unearth some things that go back pretty far and have some pretty interesting stories to tell. I guess maybe that's why I enjoy being in these places. Grab on the rope, people. We're going up. Looks like there's people living up here. Can't blame them for these hills. Can't blame them for that. Hell of a view. I got a source of water. Now, give me a chance up here to kind of ruminate on things. So I got my visa application processed. I should be able to pick that up Monday afternoon, be out of here Tuesday morning, back to Xinjiang, and I'll be working the very next day back in the classroom. So that's all taken care of, and what a complicated situation that was. Yeah, they even had I had to meet somebody at a 7-Eleven store in another part of the city to pick up my original documents, and you know, the direction I was given for finding this person were rather scarce, or they were rather ambiguous. You know, 7-Eleven stores, there's millions of them in Hong Kong. But I found her, and I got my documents, and everything's good there. So that pretty much sort of solidifies my plans for the coming year. pretty much situates me in China for the year. And it's a little sad because this will be the year I turn 50. And that's kind of a landmark, I think, maybe for my mom and my dad. See, their youngest son is now 50. Yeah, but here's the thing that kind of kicks me, and yeah, kind of sad that I probably won't be with them on that day, and I probably won't be with anyone on that day. As far as I know, I don't really have any sort of relationship to fall back on other than that. Just my mom and my dad, and you know, they're in Florida, and I probably won't be there. I have to work here in China. So I'll be spending my 50th birthday pretty much alone. And along with that is the fact that, like, my nieces, ever since my niece was born, and I don't say this to sound like jealous or anything, but ever since my niece was born, it's like she's always had an event in her life, a life event in her life that overshadowed anything that mattered in mine, you know. Like, she's having her wedding, even though she has a child with this, with a man that she's seeing, and a house, and settled in. She's decided to have her wedding this summer, which kind of coincides with my 50th birthday. But it's been like that ever since she's been born. My parents just kind of doted on her, and any sort of life event that happened in my life was constantly overshadowed by something going on in her life, and kind of really just kind of negated my presence in my family, to the extent that, you know, I went from being, you know, very sort of recognized in my family to being sort of regulated to the fringes. Yeah, and you know, it's not something I'm happy about. You know, I don't really feel like, having somebody sort of piss on my 50th birthday is not really sort of or having always somebody pissing on anything that would bring me back into the center, bring me back into the fold is just kind of negligence in my heart, you know. There's a big void of negligence from my family. I still, you know, I don't try to harbor any resentment for it, but it's definitely something I'm conscious of, whether they are or not. Let's keep going. I actually saw somebody up here. Wondering what that is. Hopefully I will find out. Since my background, you know, if you just take a look at my class, you got people who are working for NBC, you know, on world news anchors and shit. You got Kate Snow, you got Tom Hur's son playing in the NBA. There's a lot of potential in my class, and I certainly was part of that potential. But my feeling is I've been cashed out by my community and the political scene, and this goes into the Clintons too, because I certainly had a close association, close proximity to those people when I was in college in New York City. And so you get this sense that they're trying to, like, sort of set it up so my parents have this feeling that I've somehow been redeemed if their great grandson, my niece's baby boy, somehow represents that my life, the success or the potential of my life in my parents' minds, you know, when they die, so they can go to their graves, because they were very productive people in New York State and for this country, subsequently for the United States. And I was always aware of my potential and became very resistant to the narrative that was trying to be established with that potential. And so my feeling was that those people who could manage that narrative or sort of exploit that narrative saw that and didn't and wanted to cash it out, you know. So you get this sort of skip in the generations, especially in sort of the rocker, the white rocker, blue collar representation in American culture that comes out of New York City, you know. You get this big gap that's been exploited by, you know, the black drug dealers and the minorities and all those. So that's my perception of it, and what they're trying to do is cultivate this idea for my parents' sake, because they know they're talking about kind of conservative, respectable people that, well, you know, your son, Sean, he didn't really fucking matter, you know? Who really, you know? And all that stuff that you saw in him and all that stuff you saw in his future, you know, he could be a great dad, he could be a great success, he could have a lot of influence in American culture. Yeah, your great-great-grandson holds that same potential. You can die peacefully, rest your minds with that. And that's how it feels. What's being exploited in terms of my life. Why I would end up 50 years old and have no relationship other than mom and dad, you know. Outside of that, because it was kind of mysterious how when I went to college and was around in that proximity to the Clintons and those people and the drug dealers who were just kind of shitheads hanging out, selling drugs on the campus at that point. I remember running into people like Foxy Brown, just fucking standing at the fucking bus stop, and people would tell me how Biggie's girls were on campus and stuff like that, and these people were scumbags to me because they were just fucking criminals, you know. But anyway, they still are, and they do no service to American culture. They're not the blue collar, they're not the people out there working. Give us at least somebody who turns a wrench, you know, or picks up a hammer, instead of these dirtbags who kind of hang out and sort of leech off other people's prosperity and productivity. That's what my college was full of. It was a fine arts school. And to tell you the truth, 90% to 95% American campuses are sort of surrounded by this moat of sort of sleazebags looking for easy money. You'll get that sense of it when you go to college, just kind of looking on the make. Anyway, all those people tried to develop a narrative where they were creating value at the expense of those who actually had created value. I can remember very clearly a couple events that really just stick out in my mind. It's like I went to a party, and I had worked on construction crews also, building houses. So I had some money in my pockets to make my films and go to college. I was, all my expenses were pretty much my own. And I remember going to this party, and there's some of them scumbag drug dealers there, and they saw that I was drinking a Heineken, and I just remember the mark. Oh, you think you're so good, you think you're so rich, drinking a Heineken. I was like, really, man, fuck you. Would you like one though? I'll give one to you, buddy. If you like one, that's no problem, but fuck you, dude, I work for this. Don't knock me if I like a good beer. So that was one of the instances that really kind of sticks in my mind, that this is kind of attitude you're dealing with these people. And it has a lot to do with the political scene of New York right now. Whew. Look what we got up here. Hong Kong. Hong Kong. We're gonna keep going here. Well, I think this is the idea where paper came from. I think this is pretty much it. If you look at this stuff, I think it's pretty much paper there. If it was on the trajectory to kind of be the Springsteen, the next boss, you know, and you look at the sort of the intersections of where media kind of took off and technology created a world where history could be rewritten, you know, because you could use the technology to create overexposure through media and things like that, and you could try and rewrite history. You know, when I was growing up, there wasn't all that media. So my fiance and my best friends and all the people who were connected to that trajectory of me kind of being able to be, you know, to really sort of exploit my potential, that all sort of coincides, you know. Because suddenly, you know, my fiance and my best friends and people who were very close to me, who had a lot of insight into that potential, disappeared. And you still can't find them on Facebook. You still can't find, you know, it's like they don't even exist anymore, you know. It's a very strange sort of coincidence. And, you know, they weren't like people who would necessarily shy away from it, you know. But this all kind of happens at that event where people kind of created a technology through exposure and media. You could try and create new narratives rather than the ones that were understood in the communities, the actual facts. You could try and create new ones based on lies, essentially. And here I was, a person who I had no considerable offenses against any of my communities. You know, it's not like I was a criminal. It's not like I had done anything to anyone that was irreparable harm. You know, in fact, I had contributed quite a bit. I had worked my whole life, and it was one of the things I brought into that narrative that I don't think these politicos really appreciated. The fact that I could say, you know, Springsteen, he is a fraud. You know, he totes the blue class morals. He totes the blue class, you know, and he sort of exploits the blue class by being that. And I totally recognized that and was willing to sort of say, hey, let's correct that. Let's give America a blue collar representative with that same kind of passion, with that same kind of talent. And that's all Springsteen ever was, you know, and God bless the guy for that. You know, he knew what he wanted to do. He wasn't one of those guys who's like, yeah, you know, I want to be a fashion designer and shit like that, you know. He wasn't like trying to make a name for himself. He was trying to do the best show. How you doing? And that's what will get people going to here. And that's the thing I appreciate about him, and certainly what he brought to American culture, you know. And he was focused on doing one thing, you know, and doing it the best. And he is. You can't take that away from him. His albums, his music, his culture. He was a genius in a lot of other regards, you know. There's no doubt that he could have gone into fashion. There's no doubt he could have fucking did all that, you know. He wasn't a scumbag, though, you know. He wasn't somebody else. And but you got these people like Puff Daddy who just like said, give me some money now and I'll make myself a celebrity, you know, without any talent. You know, I'll just put my name on a shirt, you know, and we'll say it's black thing, black people, everybody unite, you know. And that's what you got it. Oh, I'll put my name on a cologne or a perfume or some shit like that. That makes it, you know, it had nothing fucking to do with talent, you know. It had everything to do with just kind of being marketing and media. So they've all been sort of collectively undermining that precedent of the American blue-collar worker, the single male. And we're talking, you know, a good part of that American blue-collar is that construction worker, the builder, the home builders of America. And that is kind of what I represented, and one of the people, and that was what I brought to the political narrative. And you know, the people who were like, oh, but you know, Clinton, we can bring you the vote of all this urban sort of ghetto. We can mobilize our ghettos to give you a vote. You know, just let us do this thing to the American culture. You know, and the Clintons agreed to it. You know, and to some extent, my parents agreed to it. And it's just been so almost fatalistic to the entire country to have made that decision, especially with somebody who had no, you know, unredeemable, irredeemable offenses. You know, here you have people who had solicited drugs and made no bones about doing it. You know, these were people who were sort of distributing poison in their communities. These scumbags. But so they didn't want to see somebody like me get in there and say, get the fuck out of here, you know, you stay away from us, get out of our clubs, get out of our colleges, go to some fucking other country, you know, because you're not welcome here. Which is essentially what China is doing, and it's really what America needs to do more, and that is what President Trump is expressing these days. Like, listen, we don't fucking need you here. We don't want you fucking here, you know? You do nothing for us. And it's the one thing that needs to be flushed out of the whole liberal democratic movement, because they have this feeling that talent, real talent, it is not recognition, it is a designation. That if you have people with money say you are talented, that makes talent. That makes a boss, you know? But if you look at people like Springsteen who understood it truthfully, it is recognition. And there's not he doesn't have to go out there and doubt what he does, you know? And I know that. I know that aspect of it. I know if I go out there and I know I can't do it right, or I'm fucking it up, then it's me, you know? And people have every right not to recognize what I'm doing as being worth recognition, you know? But what I have come across in last 20 years, man, and it still goes on with these fucking liberals and their British sort of, you know, they're still trying to establish this fucking phony ass fucking black precedent, you know? Even the black people recognize that Springsteen fucking got it, you know? Even the black people fucking recognize that. He knew the way you proved it. You proved that it was recognition. It was not designation, because he could give a shit about that idea of being the boss. People called him that because he fucking did the work. And you got tons of people who never did the work trying to get that designation. And that's what's kind of fucking things up in the world right now. Say that I don't have empathy for people who fall, you know, I call them scumbags, because these are people by their own choice are pretty much out to do harm, or spread harm, or sell harm. But I've had brushes with the law, you know, some of my own doing, some not, you know. As I got older in life, I got in your 30s, you know, I found as a single person who had been disenfranchised, you know, I could be walking along a fucking trail like this, you know, and there could be somebody walking in front of me, maybe 10 yards, say. Well, those people start to get scared, you know, and they will call the cops, you know, and the cops will come, and the cops will say, what are you doing here, buddy? Let's see some ID, You know, and they'll check your record, and you'll go through all that, and then they'll say, okay, go ahead, you know. But just because somebody sees you alone, sort of outside the norm, you're kind of intimidating looking, they call the cops, and suddenly you're falling on the wrong side of the law, just out of people's sort of paranoias. And a lot of that happens, you know, especially in Los Angeles. What I mean, you get people who kind of solicit provocations out of people, and then do everything in their power to keep that provocation off the record. They'll solicit provocations and then do everything in their power to keep the provocation off the record, so it looks like you were perpetrating some sort of felony. And so I have, you know, sympathy for the people who are caught in those situations. But, you know, every time when the police see, oh, this guy has no fucking record, you know. He has no fucking record. Why are these fucking people trying? How is it he's in this fucking problem? What the fuck are these people trying to do to him, you know? So that kind of gets you out of it all the time because your record is clean. I've dealt with that shit, you know, because it's like, where's the guy's girlfriend, you know? Where's his friends? Where's his kids, you know? I've dealt with that constantly in the United States. And so when I hear these black kids, oh yeah, especially the ones who have fucking records, complain about police, fucking, because, or they complain about their communities or shit like that. Okay, maybe your community has a really good fucking reason. But when these people who are like fucking just paranoid drag somebody like me into that world, I would say that's far more of a transgression than anything that these that the media is trying to espouse as, you know, transgression these days. Yeah, I get the fucking, you know, Boo Radley treatment, which is kind of like fucking, it's a little bit funny and ironic because when we read that book in junior high school, and it's one of the kind of lasting memories I have is me and this kid Mike Zabrowski. We just had the funniest stuff, riffs off of fucking Dill, and and the story. We just thought Dill was the most pointless character ever. But that being said, it sucks being Boo Radley, you know. I can understand why people's hearts go out for that guy. All right, so I made it up to the top here. There's the orb. I guess it's just kind of an aviation tower. Some radio towers up here also. And I just kind of want to wrap up talking about my experiences with the law. Some of those experiences that I kind of felt were inordinary and unjust, particularly the ones in LA. I hated being in LA. It was just a terrible time in my life. But I was out there hopefully trying to make connections and find people I could work with and hopefully establish myself in the industries out there. But one particular incident that happened out there with the law sticks in my mind, and talk a little bit about that. And this was with a Korean girl whose name was Helena, and she used to work at one of the coffee houses I used to frequent there in Laurel Canyon, called Kulex Woodshed. Very cool place, you know. No, I can't take that away from it. It was a fun place to go to. I always enjoyed going there and playing the guitar, and I found myself making the kind of connections I was hoping to make. I ran into Mackenzie Phillips there, you know, Mama's and Papa's daughter there. I ran into Andy Dick there, and I ran into, most importantly, Shane Fontaine there. And Shane Fontaine was the guitarist for Bruce Springsteen during the Human Touch tour, where he had broken up the E Street Band. I think he had also played, Shane Fontaine was also playing with the Del Fuegos rock band. But I said, wow, this is exactly what I need to be happening in my life right now. This is cool, and you know, maybe I can make something out of this. You know, I can get a chance. Here's my opportunity to be recognized. But as I was saying, there was a Korean girl there. She worked there. Kulex Woodshed used to, you know, they did a very professional job of recording every person's performance there. You know, they would do an open mic, and part of their part of their establishment was they ran a little bit of a production studio there, so they would have cameras running on all different angles and on cranes and things, and they'd give you a very professional looking product at the end of your performance. If you wanted to purchase it, you could do so. And I do have one recording, at least, of my performances there. So that was one more reason to frequent this place. And I got to know some of the people there. I knew Paul, the owner of the place, and for the most part I was on good terms, and I felt myself attracted to this Korean girl, Helena. She worked there on the cameras, and I asked her out for coffee one time, and I got a very indecisive answer from her. So I continued to flirt with her and hope in the hopes of finding a more decisive answer, until I found out that she was actually seeing the owner of the club, Paul. I was unaware of that up to a certain point, and once I found out, I backed off. I stopped asking her out, and I didn't find myself going out of my way to flirt with her. But it was a small club, and she worked there, and there was no way of avoiding her. And in the interest of being congenial and courteous, I continued to maintain familiar relationships, familiarity with her, just basically in terms of congeniality, until this one incident happened where I was back getting coffee, and Paul came up to me, and he talked to me, and he said, I want you to back off of Helena, because she's really uncomfortable with you being around here. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean, man? Ever since I found out that you were a thing, you were seeing each other, I have backed off, and I've been nothing but courteous and congenial to her. If I bump into her, getting coffee back here, that's not a fucking big deal, dude. No, I want you to back off, I was like, I'm not a fucking threat to anyone here, man. If you think I'm a threat to you, it's like, fucking swallow your pride, dude. No, and I was like, man, don't fucking get tough with me. What the fuck is your problem, And he ended up asking me to leave. He didn't like my attitude. He didn't like me taking offense at him confronting me over what was nothing. It was just sort of a familiarity with the person. And so he asked me to leave, and I was like, fuck you, dude, man. You're being a fucking asshole. Don't fucking be Mr. Tough Boyfriend or something. So I was like, all right, don't fucking leave, man, but fuck you, So I grabbed my guitar, and I'm heading out the door, and he's right on my heels, man. He's like less than a fucking foot away from me the whole fucking time. Like, he's hovering over. He's a bigger guy, and he's like hovering me over like he's fucking, he's hovering over me, and I'm like, get the fuck off, So I turned around, and I go, what? Kind of deal. Because he's breathing down my fucking neck, And he just cold cocks me. He just fucking takes a fucking shot at me, hits me right in the jaw. And so I jump on him, man, and I get him to the ground, and I'm in self-defense mode, I'm about to pummel him to shit, And that's when the other guys jump on me. All 4 or 5 other guys jump on me. They all grab me, grab my arms, my fucking legs, and they're all like sitting on me. They're all like fucking literally sitting on my legs and arms, and holding me to the ground. And I call the police. And I'm like, yeah, call the fucking police. This guy just fucking started a fight with me while I'm trying to fucking leave, And the police come, and certainly, he owns an establishment in Laurel Canyon, and I don't own shit, in Laurel Canyon. So the police are like, you gotta leave, and I'm like, yeah, I was trying to leave, but now I want to press charge against this fucking asshole who cold cocked me, who I was in the process of leaving, and he decided to fucking cold cock me because he wants to be all fucking tough in front of his girlfriend. And they're like, no. We're not gonna let you do that. I'm like, fuck you then, fuck you. He fucking hit me, if you want to fucking press charges, we're gonna arrest you. And I'm like, fuck you, So they take me in the car, and they took me to the station, and then they just let me go, without booking me or anything like that. And so I was let go, and there was no charges, no arrest. And then like a couple weeks later, I get a notice from Paul Kulak and Helena that they want to get a restraining order issued against me, you know. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? I haven't even gone back there. I've made no effort to go back there. You started the fucking fight with me, and you're fucking putting a restraining order on me? Like, fuck off, man. So anyway, I go to the court, and I'm like, listen, you know, I haven't gone to the establishment. I don't intend to go to there. You know, this guy started a fight with me, cocked me while I was leaving the establishment. It's all over his fucking girlfriend here, Helena. I don't know what kind of shit she's putting in his fucking head, but I've been nothing but, like, polite and congenial to this girl since I asked her out, not knowing that she was dating the fucking owner, you know. So if you're trying to make this big fucking deal out of it, there's really nothing I'm going to do, you know. And so the judge issued the restraining order on me, and I was like, I don't need this kind of fucking stigma, you know, because I'm out here fucking up from the other side, other coast of the United States here, trying to make connections for you know, so I can make a living, you know. Doing what I do best, you know, and these people are just kind of obfuscating it, using these contrivances against me, you know. I mean, there's no fucking, all I fucking do was ask this girl on for a fucking coffee, you know, and she didn't say yes or no. I'm the one who had to fucking realize it was a no, you know, but it didn't mean I wasn't going to stop going there, you know, because I was making good connections, you know. But no, got a restraining on me order on that, and it, you know, it's a situation where judges will just like issue those things at the fucking, you know, all the dogs, all it's got to be is a dog barking, you know, and fucking you get a restraining order against you, you know. Anyway, that was one of the experiences I had in LA, and there was a couple other more, you know, I don't really want to get into them right now. On top of the mountain here, kind of a strange line on the horizon over there. Makes me think of that U2 album, No Line on the Horizon, with that Japanese artist's photo on the cover of that album. Very much like it. But here you got that line on the horizon. Cool. But I'll leave it at that, you know. I gotta get going, head back down to town, get some grub in me, and take my trash off of this mountain, yes, and I'll post it on YouTube. Well, there's more to come too, so stay tuned. Check it out. Dollar Store Dynasty.